I am an anime hater. Now, before you all chase me with a pitchfork, I just felt like the ones I tried to get into were not interesting, at least at the time. Anyway, this was years ago, back when I still had a little pea brain. Fast forward to about last month, and my brother and girlfriend sit me down to tell me to watch Death Note. So, not having much else to do, I decided to give what I didn't expect at the time, one of the greatest shows of all time, a try. Now, the show introduces a god of death by the name of Ryuk. My first impression of him was that he was terrifying and evil, but amongst all the horrible and scary traits you may assume he has, he is just really bored. And can I blame him? Of course not, just look at how lame this place is, dude. Anyway, Ryuk makes a very impactful decision that shapes the rest of the entire show, which is making this desolate dump look all glittery and nice, making some new Shinigami friends, and growing all the apple trees he can for him and his new buddies. This doesn't quite happen though, because, well, he doesn't have apple seeds on him. But what he does have is a death note. So the second best thing he does is toss his death note into Earth in hopes that someone picks it up. That someone is the brilliant, academically acclaimed Light Yagami. Now, when he first encountered the notebook, it felt like a scene out of Eden, a forbidden fruit, a temptation of power. He, at the time, thinks nothing of this beside it being some sort of joke. As the time goes by, his curiosity gets the best of him and he decides to grab the notebook, not knowing how impactful this decision was. This is the start of Death Note. I, as a first-time watcher, appreciated how quickly the show introduced its core elements, and I also appreciated the similarity between this scene and the Garden of Eden. If Light simply ignored the notebook, he would have lived a good life. He probably would have been a respectable detective working alongside the best detectives in the world. But the temptation was overbearing. Light in that moment became the first victim of the notebook, and the prelude to such a horrifying decision shows in the following episodes. Light Yagami is a superhero. Around this time in me watching the show, I felt satisfied with him having the notebook. He kills a man who holds innocent people hostage. He kills a biker gang member who harasses women. He writes the names of criminals who have done pretty terrible things. Here and there he lets off a pretty concerning laugh, which makes me sitting watching feel kind of uncomfortable, but okay. He starts creating a pattern and persona that a detective by the name of Al catches on to. And a pinnacle moment in the show happens around this time. Al, who is well known as being the best detective in the world, decides to go live on air revealing his name, identity, and makes a statement warning Light that he will find him. In doing so, Light is at a crossroads. He can choose to let Al live, as Al isn't a criminal who deserves to be killed, or he can write Al's name in the notebook, which would go against being justifiable, but at least he would not be caught. Having to act quickly, Light defined his true self to me watching as he writes Al's name in his notebook, and moments later, we see Al die from a heart attack on live television. This was the moment Kira was born. It was no longer just an act of doing what's right, it was an abuse of power. And as I watched the legendary Al fall down to the ground, I couldn't help but feel worried for humanity. Until the screen turned on. All of this was a setup and Al was alive. The man Light killed was a man who was sentenced to the death penalty, but Light didn't know about this because it wasn't in the records. Al this entire time created a trap for Light, and Light, being overly zealous, fell for it. Now I gotta say, this was incredibly rewarding to see, and this was also where my sweet love for Al began. This was also an important development into Light, because initially I was actually rooting for him. That's when he was killing genuinely bad and evil people. But along the way, his killing started to steer away from being the right and moral thing to do, and started to become self-serving decisions to protect himself. What annoyed me about Light is how prepared and destined he thought he was for this role. But the truth is, he was just weak and got carried away. However though, despite Al tricking him, Light prevails onwards with his mission. And this leads into what was my favorite arc of the show. How do I say this? Al was cool as Easily one of my favorite characters in the show. As a viewer, I had zero clue who he was at first, besides just a big L on my screen. And so it made everything feel way more suspenseful as I was waiting for his reveal. And when it finally happened, I was shocked. He was a bum, completely out of order, gremlin posture, constantly eating sweets. This was not what I expected, you know, the best detective in the world to look like, but I don't know, it kind of worked. And what made it even better was the contrast between him and Light. You see, Light, who's evil, looks perfect, clean, composed, and well put together. Al, the good guy, looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. And while Al looked completely out of it, he was already ahead of everyone. Because at this point, Kira had already started killing people connected to the investigation. And one of the most significant people that he killed was a man by the name of Ray Penber, a respectable federal agent sent to follow suspects in the Kira investigation, one being Light. And before he died in a horrific way, Light manipulated him into writing down the names of his very own colleagues. And that was 12 FBI agents gone in a single moment. And that's when things started to fall apart. Most of the police force didn't want to end up like Ray Penber, so they backed off the case completely, leaving only a handful of detectives willing to keep going. One of them notably being Light's dad, the chief of the task force. And so these select few task force members got to work directly with Al. And from here onwards, it turned into a full cat and mouse game between Light, Al, and one person who got way closer than she should have. Ray Penber's wife, Naomi. This whole section was easily one of my favorites because for the first time it actually felt like someone might catch Light. And then we got that gut-wrenching scene.
Why are you checking your watch?
Because I am Kira. Dude, this whole scene was absolutely peak. However, I really do wish we got to see more of Naomi. But anyways, after that, the focus shifts back to what really drives the show. L versus Light. Two people both convinced they're right, both trying to outplay each other at every single step. And this was the core of the entire series for me. Watching them constantly trying to catch each other off guard, even though I absolutely despised Light, I enjoyed disliking him because L was just so easy to root for. And just as the dynamic starts peaking, the situation somehow gets worse because now there isn't just one Kira, there's two. Enter Misa. She's this sweet, kinda clueless girl, but way more dangerous than Light because she has the God of Death Eyes, a deal with her Shinigami Rem that lets her see anyone's name instantly. And for a while, she's trying to find Kira because Kira killed the man who murdered her parents. And when she finally figures out that Light is Kira, she falls in love with him, which is honestly just so painful to watch because Light does not care about her at all. She's just another tool to him. But just when things are already getting complicated, the most unexpected moment in the whole show happens. I'm L. Yeah, I did not expect that at all, and neither did Light. At this point, L is already confident that Light is Kira. So instead of waiting around, he gets closer to him. He enrolls in the same university, acts as a student, and inserts himself directly into Light's life. And from here, the tension just shoots up because now it's not just a battle at a distance. They're face to face. They're constantly testing each other and every conversation feels like a trap. My favorite university scene was when Misa pulls up to see Light, Death God eyes on and everything. And L is just there. He introduces himself as Hideki Ryuga and you can see Misa gets confused because she can see his real name. And it only got worse when she walks off and Light pulls out the phone to call her and get L's name and kill L and take his victory. It's over. Oh my god, the whole thing is over. Oh my god. You're too cool, man. Al pickpocketed her phone when they met. He suspected her the entire time. Mind freaking blown, dude. And just to make it worse, Light calls her second phone, which Al also has. What came after this was low-key the saddest episode, and I'll try to be as brief as I can here. Very quickly, everything starts collapsing for Misa, because at this point, she's the primary suspect for being the second Kira. So Elle arrests her, and they keep her in this cold, isolated room, completely restrained and blindfolded as they interrogate her. It's intense, but not once does she ever give up Light. She just keeps insisting that she has no idea what they're talking about, until eventually she breaks and confesses to being the second Kira. But even after that, she still doesn't reveal Light. Then Rem steps in, and to protect her, Misa gives up ownership of the Death Note, which wipes her memories completely. She forgets being Kira, she forgets the notebook, she even forgets Elle's name, but she still remembers Light and still loves him. And while all of this is happening, Light makes his next move. He demands to be confined. He wants to prove that he is innocent, which is insane because Elle already believes he's Kira, but Elle agrees and locks him up too. And this is where everything gets super complicated, because this wasn't a mistake from Light, it was a plan. So let's break down what I truly believe to be Light's most calculated move in the entire series. First, Light meets with Ryuk and Rem and relinquishes ownership of his Death Note, giving it to Ryuk. He then tells Ryuk to swap notebooks with Rem. Now at this time, this didn't really make sense to me at first, but I later discovered it ensured Ryuk would be attached to Misa and not Rem, so when she regained her memories, she could make the ideal again. Light then convinces Ryuk to write 2 fake rules. 1. The owner must use the notebook every 13 days or they die. 2. If the Death Note is destroyed, anyone who touched it will die. The 13-day rule proves Light and Misa can't be Kira, since killings continue while they're imprisoned. The destruction rule stops Elle and the task force from getting rid of the notebook entirely. With that in place, Light tells Rem to pass a Death Note to someone acting out of greed. That ends up being a man by the name of Higuchi. Then, to seal everything, Light relinquishes ownership again, losing all memory of being Kira. He knows Elle won't believe him until the case is solved, but he also knows that without his memories, he will genuinely try helping the task force catch Kira. This was Light's most masterful play. Killings continue while he's locked up, and watching him act completely innocent, even offended when being accused of being Kira while helping the investigations, was one of the most rage-inducing sequences I have ever watched. At the same time, it felt hopeless for Elle and the task force. They worked so hard, and this memory loss maneuver completely scrambled the case. Anyway, fast forward. Light is now working alongside Elle to catch Kira. Yay. And like I said, this part was just so frustrating. He genuinely had me screaming at my screen. But after a grueling couple of episodes, they finally catch Higuchi. In this intense scene, the entire task force surrounds him on the road, with Elle and Light watching from a helicopter above. They find the Death Note in his car. One of the officers grabs it.
Oh my god, it's so ugly.
And there it was. Everything led up to this moment. Light regains his memories of being Kira, and without hesitation, he kills Higuchi to reclaim the Death Note. But even in victory, things are not over, because Elle is closing in on Misa. He's about to prove she's the second Kira and have her executed. So Light makes his very final move. He manipulates Rem, creating a situation where the only way to save Misa is to kill Elle, and Rem does the unthinkable. Elle freezes. He already knew, he just never had the proof. And then there's Light, smiling. The last thing Elle ever sees is Kira staring into his eyes, smiling. And Elle always knew it was him, he just couldn't prove it. And before he dies, there's this really symbolic moment of Elle washing Light's feet, just like Judas and Jesus, knowing betrayal is already set in motion. Elle was an incredible detective, and when he died, I felt a real disconnect from the show. Until we are introduced to the successor of Elle, Nier. I want to make this clear before I go any further, that though Nier and Al share similarities, they are nothing alike. And despite Nier having a later appearance and impact on the show, losing Al was still something I at least felt throughout the entire show. But anyways, Nier was a very interesting individual. He shared very similar physical attributes to Al, and I don't know how old he was, but I know he is younger than Al, and this is made obvious with him playing with toys almost every time. Anyway, Nier knows that Light is Kira. And also, at this time in the show, we are also introduced to a lunatic by the name of Mikami, who also went by ex-Kira. Mikami is quite a cautious and intelligent man, and a far better second Kira than Lisa. He refers to Light as God and delete. Yeah, he's a bit of a lunatic, like I said. Anyways, both Light and Mikami possess the notebooks, and things are starting to get out of hand. Nier's SPK team has gotta find a way to close the gap to save humanity. And this is where we get introduced to probably the most clutch character in this series, Steven Giovanni, who is a key member of Nier's SPK team. Now, Giovanni had been assigned to monitor Mikami full time. He used his skills to learn Mikami's routines, and he deduced an important observation, and that is that Mikami visits the bank each month on the 25th. But unusually, Mikami at the time also visited the next day on the 26th, the same day Takada died. And so Giovanni, being incredibly cool, forged Mikami's handwriting perfectly into a fake notebook and swapped it with the real notebook. We don't find this out till only after an incredibly suspenseful warehouse scene, which by the way was absolute cinema. Anyways, with Nier and the SPK team having Mikami's actual notebook, Nier orchestrates a meetup with Light at a warehouse. His reasoning behind wanting to meet Light face to face was to confirm his findings in person, but really it was to finalize his trap. So without hesitation, Light accepts the offer, thinking, this will be a victory for him. And so we've made it here. An intense standoff. The task force are utterly confused with what is even going on. They declare Nier to take off his mask. He says he will once 30 minutes go by. A long 30 minutes go by and nothing happens to anyone. So he takes his mask off and tells them if someone comes into that door, simply let them and don't resist, as he expects ex-Kira to be nearby. The task force are in disbelief until yeah, no one here will die. We gave him a fake notebook. Oh my god, you fell for it. This whole time, Mikami was never doing the killings. He himself created a fake notebook that you all thought was real, when actually Takado had the real notebook. You are nothing like Al. Well, Mikami, seeing that we're all going to die in 40 seconds, why don't you come in? You've done well, Mikami. How long since you've written the first name? 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. I won, Nier. We're not dead.
No, I seem to be fine. You?
Apprehend Mikami and hand over the notebook. See for yourself. The first 4 names are unmistakably the names of the SPK members, and the only name not here is Light Yagami.
This is a trap and none of this is real. This was all just a setup.
Light, Kira, you lost.
Well, time to pull out my secret notebook page.
Shut the fuck up.
God, please, no. Why, Matsuda, you and me are buddies. Come on, man. Hey, look, a bird.
And so, in an extremely satisfying end scene, we see pitiful, disgraceful Light whimpering out of the warehouse. The payoff was immense, as I enjoyed every single second that went by watching how much of a loser he looked throughout the entire scene. And the real cherry on top was seeing Ryuk sitting above watching it all happening. This is how it was supposed to end. From the very beginning, I told you that in the end, it'll be me that writes your name in my death note. Light, in the end, was nothing more than a maniac with a god complex. The truth was, Light could have been great. He could have been working alongside Al and his dad and been respected as a great detective, but his ego was his ultimate demise. With how annoying of a character he was, I think it's totally fair to pay homage to Light. He was, honestly, a remarkable villain protagonist and an incredible display of the destruction of power. The very reason the show was so engaging was due to the Machiavellianism found in Light Yagami, and to that I farewell him. And in the end, Al won and saw this victory through. To me, Al was the one that triumphed against Kira in the end. All the work he laid down led to this point, and for both Mello and Nia to unite to see through Al's mission was beautiful. Those that died by the pen made their mark and allowed the next page to turn, a blank page, one without bad actors or murderers trying to impose themselves as the heir of righteousness or justice. I watched this show because I was bored and I felt like watching something. And I am so glad I did. This was my first ever anime, so I'm sure there's perhaps a lot of things I missed, but I really enjoyed this show, guys. This was incredibly good and truthfully one of the best shows I've watched, just generally speaking. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. These videos are definitely not easy to make, and if you'd like to share some interesting discoveries you've made watching Death Note, I'd love to interact with some of you guys in the comment section. Let me know what anime I should watch next and make a video about. Thanks for watching.